How's it going, guys? Poison RC coming at you with another video. In my previous video I was talking about installing the stone guards, and as you can see they're installed. And I told you my next video upload would be installing the beast of a steering servo. If you didn't see that, go back in my videos, you'll see it. I did kind of like a review and unboxing of it. And so today, I already told you guys that will be my next install. So, in order to get started in this, and I am using my old phone. I'm not using my Apple phone. I'm using the old phone that I could actually pause, because some reason Apple's stupid like that and they don't have a pause feature when you're video recording. And so I'm not sure how well this is going to turn out. On my end it looks kind of blurry, so I apologize. But we're going to go ahead and jump into it. You want to go ahead and grab a 2.5 millimeter Allen. And like I said, I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see this. So if you can't see, which kind of looks blurry on my end, I'm going to take it out this screw down there. But first you want to disconnect your wires to your motor. Just get those out of the way. Pretty tight in there. I don't like these motor wires because the fact that they're rock hard stiff, I think that's stupid. I'd rather have flexible. But anyway, so now we have better access to the screw I'm talking about. Let's see, this comes off, take care of that, move that off to the side. Okay, so now we just got the little wire for the fan, which that's not a big deal. So you want to start by loosening this 2.5, and now be careful because on the bottom right down here, I'm not sure how well you can see that, there's a nut down there, so you want to make sure as you're taking this out that you're watching carefully, you see if that nut comes out. Because if it does, and then you go try to put the screw back in, it's not going to thread in because the nut's not in there. So, I wish I had my pair of needle nose. Not sure where they took off to. These tools I don't ever use. I don't really like these tools, but my buddy was using my other 2.5. So there we go. We disconnected that. And so that's already disconnected. So I honestly, to better not lose that nut, I would just go ahead and, if I was you, just go ahead and thread that back in there. And then that way that nut's not coming out and you're not losing any fasteners, because I'm putting the screw right back in. So it'll stay right in there the whole time. Anyway, that being said, that one's done. And so now the linkage is done. And so I really hate this overall design that arrma did. I don't know. It just seems cheap. Doesn't seem very efficient. And so here I am spending $225 pretty much with tax and all that to install the beast servo. So, like I said, if you guys, in case you guys are wondering, that is 1,400 ounces of torque. So, it's going to be a beast. So we're going to go ahead and flip this honker over, or try to. It is pretty heavy truck. And let me bring you back up on the pedal stool here. And so you want to go ahead and loosen these two 5s. There's one here, this one, and that one. And that should just drop out your whole receiver and your servo. So let's set these guys aside here. And as you're loosening these, you want to go ahead and probably hold your receiver box up, because there's a lot of weight with that. Well, I mean, I have the Max 5 in there, but there's a lot of weight with the Max 5 and the servo and all that good stuff. Okay, so we officially got that out. Go ahead and back you up a little and flip her on over. Okay, now that that's all done, and now I'm going to readjust. And as you can see here, comes out nice and dirty, but it comes out all in one piece. I am going to pause the video. I am going to clean this up a little bit because I don't like my RCs dirty, and I'll get back with you guys here in a second. Alrighty guys, we are back. I set the truck aside, and so as you can see with those 4 bolts out, this will come all out in one piece. You want to go ahead and be careful that this little guy right here just kind of sits in there, so be careful not to lose that. And bearing's a little dirty. It's kind of really dirty, so I will make sure to clean those parts, because you don't want to just put dirty parts back in unless you're lazy. So anyway, so let's see here. I'm going to pause this real quick. Alright guys, come back. So you want to go ahead and grab a, you want to take this guy out over here, the little plastic, whatever you want to call it. And that's a 4mm. And so most people, they would tighten. So instead of tightening or to loosen it, you want to go right instead of left. It's a little different on these. So I loosened that a little bit, so now I'm going to take her out by hand. See, as you can see, I was going to the right to take it out. And so now you need to grab your 2.5. There's another screw in there. Like I said, I don't know how well the video is going to turn out because this is just my old crappy phone. So now to the left to take this one off. So, and this is your servo saver, in case you guys were wondering. Arrma's worst design ever, in my opinion. And so as you can see, it kind of all comes apart. And yeah, so here's the servo saver part. There's a washer in there that I just took out. As you can see, there's all the parts right here. It's got 2 springs. The little one goes in the middle, obviously. The bigger one goes on the outside. The washer sits inside there, in case you guys were wondering. And then, so this is where, bring it back over here, this is where they screwed up, and this was straight out of the box. And I think no, I don't think I replaced it. So this one, as you can see, it's kind of stripped out, and that was straight out of the box. So I wasn't too thrilled with that. And so my buddy was working on it a little bit, and somehow we got it to work, but it still wasn't working so great. And so, in order, we want to go ahead and probably take the top deck off. And so I think those are 2 mil or 1.5s. Nope, those are 2 mils. So those are going to be 2 millimeters, Allens. So, in case you guys are wondering, there's one here, one there, one right here, one there, and one right there. I think that's all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen them and I'll get back with you. Alrighty, so the screws are out. And here it is, it's coming off. And you could just go ahead and unplug that from the receiver, that way you could set the ESC off to the side. In terms for that, the electronic speed control. And I need a rag real quick. It's not going to really matter because this guy's coming out, but you know, might as well just clean it up. Kind of how well it's there. And so now you want to go ahead and take out the 4 screws holding the servo in. I'm going to pause it real quick. Alrighty guys, so in reality I don't even really need to mess with this because I'm not going to be using this one. So I'm just going to be jacking the parts out there. So this little foam stopper for the wire, go ahead and grab that out. And because you're going to be using, with a true 5th scale, you're going to be using the other servo, or not servo, receiver box that I mentioned in the video, because this one will no longer work. And I'm trying to figure out how to get these little stoppies out here for your wires. Okay, so now you want to grab a 1.5 because you're pretty much jacking it, and you're going to take out this little screw right here. As you see, there's a little screw holding the antenna in, and probably take it all the way out because I don't think the other receiver box has it. So when you loosen that, your antenna will come out, and then you can pull this out with it. Maybe. It doesn't look like it wants to do that. So we'll feed this wire through. Be careful not to mess with your wires too much because this is your receiver. So not horseplay with it too much. You could just take that off and set that aside. Okay, and then you take that out. You could probably go ahead and unplug it. And so what you want to do, try not to lose any of your screws. You want to gently pry up on these, but try not to use a lot of force because you could damage your receiver. So like as you see in the video, I am slowly giving a little tug. Nothing too serious. Okay, as she comes out, nice and perfect. So now this, you could just set aside. You don't need that any longer. If you're doing a true 1/5 scale, you don't need that. And so that's why you need your new box, which is this one. And so this is a true 1/5 scale receiver box. And I mentioned the part number in that. I don't know it off the top of my head. I might have tossed the info on in the trash. Actually, no, I do have it right next to me. So in case you guys are wondering what the receiver part number is for, it's going to come with both the 1/5 scale and the 1/6 scale receiver parts. And so the part for that is the 320553 is the part number for that, in case you guys are wondering. Let's see here. And so I'm going to, it might not work, let's see, try to push those little rubber cushions in, or foam cushions that I did in my last, and so there you go, I pressed that in. So that looks nice and good. And so now you want to use your other wonderful foam cushion and grab your receiver. Let's see here. Slap her in there. You want to make sure that these are level because they do have active vehicle control. So when you're doing that, make sure that they're putting their level. So we're going to grab our other foam cushion and we're going to press it down there. Pull that wire kind of tight with your flathead. Kind of push down on that. Try not to damage the wire. And then we're going to go ahead and feed it through. Nice and easy. Okay, and you grab your antenna and feed it through the tube and press her on in nice and tight till she stops. Then you're going to grab, I mean, this thing is little. Looks like a sand pebble. I don't know if you guys could see that. But that little tiny grub screw, the 1.5. You're going to grab that to find the end to it. And you're going to go ahead and put it down there by the antenna tube to hold it in. You don't need to get this mega tight, just tight enough to hold it in there, so now that tube won't come out. And you want to make sure on the side of the receiver, you guys probably won't be able to see that, but you want to make sure that you're plugging it into the right port. So I'm going to pause it real quick and then install that port. Alrighty, so now that I have that installed, so I mentioned about this being stripped out from the factory, and so I have the new steering parts and it doesn't come with that little O-ring, so I'm going to have to pop that O-ring off and put it on the new one. I need something sharp to grab it. Like a pick. So here's my new one, and I'm just going to go ahead and put that O-ring around there. This old one, set that aside as junk. And so what I want to mention, and I think this is what happened from the factory, there's on this splines right here, as you can see in the video, I'm not sure if you see it very well, but there's all these teeth, and then there's like a flat spot on here, and so that has to line up with the flat spot inside there. As you see, that big bulky piece sitting right, let's see here, right here. So that plastic's got to line up with that when you install it. So like, I don't have the screw in there, but it'll sit in there just like that. But I'm going to go ahead and center my steering before I install everything. And I'm going to go from there. So I'm going to pause this real quick and come back. Alright, so I have Alex RC Freak. He's giving me a hand on this. This is kind of like a two-person thing. So over here, I have everything all hooked up just kind of on the bench. As you can see, the servo is all hooked up, and you want to make sure we're centering everything. So
basically what you want to do when you get in servo, especially with the Kraton 8S, especially the way the shitty servo saver setup is, and no, I do not care when anyone says it's garbage. arrma, you failed. You could have did a lot better. Like this right here, this arm could have came out farther right here, and that would have gave you more leverage for your steering. Like even with this steering, nothing attached, it binds. See, it binds when you crank it to the right. You can't hear it or feel it in camera, but you can. If you're here, you could feel it. Like going right there, turning max left is binding right there. It lasts like 3 millimeters, but turning it right, it's smooth. It's just the way the steering bell crank design is on this is just not a good design. I think arrma totally bombed on the steering on this rig. I think it's a cool rig, but I think they bombed on the steering, despite what anyone tells me. Just throwing that out there. So.
But anyway,
you gotta squish this together, but here's the thing. Usually this arm right here, you gotta keep in mind, this arm right here is either gonna be kicked. On the Kratons, they usually, instead of straight up and down at a 90, it's usually kicked over just a little bit. Like this, instead of being 90 degrees up, it's usually kicked over like that a little bit. So this is going to be kicked like that to have the steering straight on the vehicle. That's why you plug in your batteries, your speed control. You don't have to plug into the motor. Just plug in just turn it on to where you can steer the wheels. And then go in, if you have an adjustable radio like this one, go into your sub trim, you know what I'm saying, your percentage, like how much degrees it goes over left or right, you know what I'm saying, like 20% left and then like 100% right, whatever. Make sure everything's zeroed out, because you will have to adjust this. This will just give you, the way to do this will give you a baseline on where to put the steering servo horn to get it lined up, so you don't have to adjust it all through your steering trim. Then you're maxed out your adjustment. So there's a couple ways you can do this. So now you gotta kind of grab the speed control, which I might need a second hand here, so nothing falls off here. So basically, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick this on, like I'm gonna kick it over just a smidge to the left. Now this is a 15 tooth Savox servo. So hold on here. So one thing with this, instead of putting a lot of pressure on your servo, you just take this thing off and work it on. It'll go on. This one's really, really tight, like abnormally tight, but that's actually probably a good thing. The splines are sharp. Some servos, the splines ain't very sharp, and they'll actually strip and stuff like that very easily, especially with plastic. So it's actually a really good thing to have sharp splines. So anyway, I'm having it on there, and then see how this is kicked a little bit to the left. I know you probably can't see it, but if you notice, this has a little line right in here. There's a little arrow pointing up, indicating this flat spot. So just to make sure you have it on and the splines are lined up, you can just turn it and watch it turn. So that's a key note there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this, I'm going to grab that screw and put it in there, have it dropped in there.
Okay.
And grab a screwdriver.
I don't think that's the right one. That's a 2.
Not the right one.
Here. This one.
Start threading it in. Okay, when it starts getting threaded in, you kind of want to do this. Kind of want to get it lined up. Stick the thing down. Make sure you kind of hold it down so you get those splines lined up, and just kind of see, it'll kind of just start grabbing and going in. So when you do this, just kind of get it. Make sure you have a good high quality Allen set for RC specifically for radio controls, because it really, really does matter. Make sure you have this O-ring around the edge. That actually is important. It keeps dust out of your servo saver setup on this particular vehicle. So what I like to do is, oh Jesus, yeah, you gotta kind of watch out. It's kind of a little bit of a tricky mess to do it, but you can do it. Just do this. So what I like to do, I like to loosely sit this, just sit it in there like this, okay? This cord's gonna be in the way. You can take it, wrap it around the motor wire or whatever. So now this bolt is where it's gonna mount to. So
I took that, put that screw in there.
Which is fine. So it looks like we're actually lined up pretty good, because that's where the bolt would be. And it looks like we gotta adjust the toe links, because this toe link is fine. But these are the toe links right here. You set your toe, so how much the tire's been in or out. Factory, this one has not been ever touched. So factory, they're always off. So usually in the front, you wanted like 1 to 2 millimeters of negative toe. So that way the tires are pointing in towards the vehicle. So when you drive down the road, it'll straighten them out. But don't have it super like this. Just like literally 1 to 2 millimeters, which is hardly anything at all. So this one is going to definitely need this side adjusted. But this side looks straight with the bolt in there. So like I say, you may still have to adjust it on your radio to fine tune it. On the radio, you may have to go click. And on this DX4C, you might have to go into sub trim. Whoops, don't do that. Go into, where is it?
It's underneath travel for 100%, 150%.
Sub trim right there. So when you go into sub trim, you can adjust it for either side, left or right side. So when I adjust this, it'll either, if I click on this, I can adjust it right 1 degree or left 1 degree. So that's something to note. You will have to fine tune it like that. You'll have to. Because the way this steering setup is, and the 15-2 spline, they never line up perfect. Because it's such an aggressive spline, you only have so much adjustment. And like when you have the teeth in there, you move it over, it moves it over quite a bit with the 15-2 spline versus a 25-2 spline where you have 25 splines. You can just move it over just a little bit, move it over just a little bit. So this one actually looks like it's set up pretty good right here. So we'll leave the bolt tight on the servo saver and leave everything as it is. And we could just adjust this, and you can also adjust this too. This is looks like a 7mm right here, and you could adjust this nut, and that'll actually make it longer or shorter to get it in a spec. But I think we need to adjust this outside piece right here. So that being said, that's how you do that. You just kind of mock it up, and that way it gives you a baseline to make sure that you have everything lined up and on your vehicle before you bolt, because it's not the easiest to get to the steering on this thing. So,
Oh man.
That don't mind me. I just knocked over an RC car on that stand there. That was bad. But yeah, so that was a fail, but yeah. So basically just turn off your ESC after that, electronic speed control. And basically you just leave this in there. Make sure to put this plastic nut in there, but make sure you tighten down that screw. And double check it. You know, I know I tightened it, but you know what the heck. You crash, you make an RC fall off the stand, you gotta double check things sometimes. So that's tight. So the nice thing about this just needs to be snug. Like, it doesn't need to be tight. It doesn't really need to do anything. It just needs to be touching, basically. So what I do is I just do this. Turn it in counterclockwise to tighten. So you just turn it left to tighten it, right to loosen, left to tighten. So you just touch it. And I usually just go by hand. You could take a flathead with a 1/4-inch drive. Take a flathead, and that one's not big enough. So you could just take the actual ratchet, the correct ratchet.
It's right in front of you.
If I wasn't blind. And you could just give it on the right setting, of course. And just give it like literally just barely of a turn, and that's all you need. You don't need a refit. And then
make sure you install your
that
make sure you install your bearing in your little thing back.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's not too dirty. I would like to clean it, but make sure you press that back in there.
So yeah, basically once that's in there, it actually locks in there really nice, but
or you can clean it, one or two.
You can clean it, like you say, and then just stick this in there. It just sticks in there like so, clicks in there. Actually, that clicks in there pretty nice. But just be careful that doesn't fall out. That actually rubs on the, the side guards on the frame. There's a little groove in there that sits into to kind of help support this big, heavy, thick, 1.5-inch thick steering servo saver. So, that being said, just make sure to adjust your steering trim so your steering wheel is straight, and then your sub trim, so that way you still have 100% left or right. If you actually go into the radio settings and just left or right trim on the radio, if you have adjustable radio, it actually loses the percentage of how much it turns left or right. So right now, with the sub trim, you can still turn 100% left, 100% right. Instead of, if you adjust it like with the normal steering trim setting, you get maybe 90 degrees right. If you adjust it to the right already 10 degrees, you'll get 90, so it'll take away from that. So you don't get the full 100% both ways. That's why I like sub trim.
We're going to have to make it part 2.
But with that being said, Chris got something to say.
Alright guys, so we're already clicking into 30 minutes on this video, so I don't want to keep going too long, so I'm going to probably make a part 2 for this. It is kind of a little big process, so that being said, we're going to disconnect our batteries and I'll put everything back together on my part 2 video and installing it back into the RC. Alrighty, I will end this here, and I'll talk to you guys later.